Hello, I'm Max.
And I'm Dan.
And welcome to Fightography.
This week we have our first actress for the Fightography, or if you prefer gender-neutral terms. What?
Exciting times.
Yeah, or if you prefer gender-neutral terms, like a lot of people do these days, it's just another actor, innit? As we discussed last week, it's quite hard to find someone who's culturally relevant at the moment. However, I had some success. Because, see,
awesome. I'm very intrigued.
Yes. You see, in the cultural pipeline, there is a juggernaut approaching us at swift pace. It's only Sing 2. Now, in Sing 2, a certain
Who's in Sing 2? I've not seen any of the Sings.
Well...
hang on. I reckon I could have a good guess at this. I reckon I could have a good guess at this.
Okay, so... I'll read... Do you want to read another film, or do you want to go from just that one?
No. Sing 2. Because Sing 2, I've not seen any of them. Sorry, guys.
How dare you?
But it's the animation about, like, animals singing, and I know there's, like, a pig singer. But I've just got to think, who's family-friendly, who's going to sort of lend their voice to a kid's film? So I'm immediately thinking a Scarlett Johansson, a Anna Kendrick, a Emma Stone, maybe?
Interesting guesses.
Who knows? So those are my picks.
Your first one was right, straight out of the gate. It is one. Scarlett Johansson is this week's Fightography.
Okay.
Scarlett Johansson / Johansson, star of this week's Fightography. How do we feel about Scarlett Johansson, Max? How do we feel about
her? That's an interesting question. I think as an actor she's incredibly good. It's frightening how young she is as well, because I swear, I know she started really as a child actress in like Home Alone 3, I think. But when she was in Iron Man 2, I think she was only like 23 or like 24, which is very young to get into like to get a good role in a hit Hollywood film, really. And it's because we've sort of grown up with the MCU, and therefore we've grown up with Scarlett Johansson, that I think everybody thinks she's a lot older than she might be, but I swear she's only like in her early to mid 30s.
I would probably put her around mid 30s. That's how.
Which seems amazing, because it feels like she's been around forever, which is awesome.
She is.
But yeah, she's had some good roles. She was very good in Marriage Story. But she's also had her controversies here and there, so I'm sure...
She has indeed.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
She's 37, just Googled it.
37? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's younger than Andrew Garfield.
Yes, she is, by like a year or two, I think.
Let that sink in.
But, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, she was in another cultural phenomenon before the MCU. That is one Eight-Legged Freaks, which is not a film that will crop up on this list, but it is...
was she in Eight-Legged Freaks? I didn't know that.
Yeah, she's like a teenager.
Is that the David Arquette film? Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it's the sort of... I think it's meant to be a comedy horror thing with giant spiders. It's not great. I saw it years ago, but...
I remember, I never saw it, but I remember when I was a kid, because I think it came out when I was fairly young, we'd always go into like W.H. Smith's, which is the place that sold DVDs at the time, aside from HMV, and there'd always be a copy of Eight-Legged Freaks, and I always found the cover really creepy, because it's just David Arquette screaming behind a giant spider, in front of a giant spider.
Yes.
So that's my memory of such a niche film.
It was on my parents' DVD shelf for years, and I always thought, oh my god, it looks so scary. And then I watched it, and I was like, oh, it's not that scary. But yeah, you mentioned her controversy. She did, starred in a film where she basically played a whitewashed character, which is great. But her rebuttal did give us this week's wildcard, which we'll come back to later on.
Oh, oh God.
Yes. Yes. But, at least she's not
Cancelled Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah. Bad at press interviews, Scarlett Johansson. But anyway, without further ado, let's get on to this week's first Gladiator. I think we can agree it's her most known role.
Go.
It is indeed one Black Widow.
Home Alone 3. Oh.
Yes. Prequel to the Black Widow film, before the events of Iron Man 2, young Natasha Romanoff. So Black Widow from a variety of films across the MCU. Probably her most notable role. A strong open competitor, master assassin. She's got some cool gadgets. How do you feel about Black Widow?
Digesting thought. No, I think the character is a very solid character. I wasn't a big fan of the film. I think you're thinking about her in solo film, which I was so excited for. I'm not sure if you remember, but I was so hyped for it, and you were sort of like, oh, it's going to be quite a standard Marvel film. And I don't know why I got really hyped for it. I wonder what in the trailer got me so hyped for it, because actually watching it, I was quite unimpressed. And my issue with Marvel films these days is when they're released and they feel like they're on the same level as Iron Man.
Yeah.
Which sounds bizarre, because Iron Man is a very solid film, but I think Iron Man is a good place to go, okay, this is the line that we need to be hitting. Well, actually, 10 years in, this is a line that we need to be overstepping every time. And a lot of films have come out in the last couple of years which have been just a little bit, well, this is sort of Iron Man, but not as good. Or maybe it is as good, but because we've had this for 10 years, it just doesn't seem original, and therefore doesn't seem good. I sort of had a similar beef with Captain Marvel. I wasn't the hugest fan of Captain Marvel either. There's probably a few others.
I think Doctor Strange for me. Doctor Strange for me was the film where I was like, this is just Iron Man as magic. It's some cool visuals.
If you take away the special effects,
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's the film. The solo film disappointed me, but the character's always been an interesting one, and I think it's been an important one culturally, I guess.
Yeah. I think my biggest issue with the film is that it should have been released when they originally wanted to release it. If it wasn't for bloody what's he called? Not Avi Arad. He's bad as a different way. Former head of Marvel Studios, basically. You can Google him. He's a massive prick. Didn't want a Black Panther film. Didn't want any sort of female-led film. So if it wasn't for him, they could have released it back in 2016. And if they released it then, I reckon it would have been a lot more. I don't know, a lot more recognised, I guess, because, the Black Widow solo film doesn't really do anything to surprise you with where it's placed in the timeline. It's not, oh my god, add so much extra context. It's just, oh, yeah, cool.
And the problem is, because it sort of came after Endgame, it really did struggle, because, you can do sort of like a kind of prequel story and make it work, but I don't think they did anything tremendously interesting, and we were all like, well, every character's going to survive this. Okay, maybe some of the side characters, like the mum and dad, won't. They did, which was a bit boring, and dramatically fart. But, yeah, you go into that film going, okay, Black Widow's going to survive. Okay, this character's clearly the setup as the next Black Widow, because Black Widow's, spoilers, dead. So there was no surprise, really. Ray Winston doing a Russian accent. That's... I don't want to get too into it, because it wasn't that bad a film. I just didn't have a great experience, and I just thought it was a MCU film that should have been made 10 years ago, and therefore it should be better than it is today. But Ray Winston doing a Russian accent is Crystal Skull levels.
Yeah, it's
that's
it's an average Marvel film that's a few years too late. Nothing spectacular, but not bad either. It's distinctly middle of the road.
No. The character itself, kung fu, martial arts, ninja-y, flippy stuff, tasers.
Tasers. She's got
Do we give her guns?
She has guns, yeah. She's got a grapple thing. She's got like a stun baton she can use. I'm pretty sure she's got a grapple at one point, yeah.
Okay, so she's got a melee of weapons on her person.
Yeah, she's like Batman.
So she's going to be quite competent.
Yeah, a fairly competent opening fighter. But
wait, did you just say she was Batman-like?
Batman-light. Like, you know, got the martial arts and a few gadgets. Like
right.
Same sort of... Batman, but with not dead parents.
It's too hard to say, because it would have made the film more interesting. Although death doesn't always. Sometimes death is such a overused way to boost tension.
Yeah, it can be a really cheap way of adding drama, I find, death, when it's not... sometimes it's great, sometimes it's just not needed. But a fairly competent opening fighter. However, this week I feel is going to be a fairly easy victory, and it's more or less going to be how long does everyone else survive. Because our next competitor is Lucy from the film Lucy.
Oh, have I seen Lucy? I think I have. Oh my god, I think I have.
It's a weird one. It's got some strange editing choices, and I think it thinks it's really clever, but it's not as clever as it thinks it is. It's fun, but it's not this genius, thought-provoking film.
I like how you can pinpoint where the original premise came from.
Yeah.
So the film, okay, from recollection, it's about a woman who gets a serum into her system, which allows her to unlock like the entirety of her brain, because human beings only use like 20% of their brains. So she basically she's essentially superpowered, but also like a spy, and then ascends into like some bizarre consciousness, if I remember rightly. But I like how you can sort of pinpoint where the premise came from. There's a guy needing to write a Hollywood film, and then he was just like reading stuff online, and then he just came across the fact that humans only use 10% of their brains.
I think that's
and he was like, boom, got it.
I think that's been disproven too, that factoid. I think it was like disproven to be like a
probably.
A myth.
It's one of those things where you probably need to read the full context. Humans only use 10% of their brain at a single time or something like that. And there's like, it feels like there's a little bit more to the sentence that is missed off.
I feel it's more like a Sherlock kind of deal, where we use most of it, but we just don't use it properly. And if we like put trading into it, we can really like organise memories and thoughts and whatever. You don't get...
I'm not sure we'd get superpowers.
But yeah, so Lucy basically is a god. By the end of that film, there's very little she can't do. She can control other people's minds, their bodies. She can like control matter itself. She can fly. Yeah. She can see wavelengths of electricity and like magnetism and that spectrum.
Because she does have an arc from sort of a regular person to kind of super consciousness. And then in the middle is the kind of badass fighter. Which Lucy is going into this battle royale?
Well, I think 100% is not great, because she'll just win instantly. So not 100%. However, watching it's surprising how she gets most of her useful powers for this battle basically pretty quickly. By 50% of her brain, she can already like make people fly around and stop bullets in midair and switch people off and this, that, and the other.
Okay.
She's going to need to have something to nerf her, because she does mention that she needs to be able to like totally focus on certain things, which limits her abilities, I would imagine. So the battlefield I have in mind, which we'll get to later on, may help with this if it takes away her concentration slightly.
Interesting.
But yeah, she's also a master marksman, as you mentioned. She doesn't really do much hand-to-hand combat, because I was waiting for a scene where she like kicks the crap out of everyone, because I'm sure I remembered it. But watching it back, no. She's just really good with a gun, and then she goes straight to Jean Grey, Magneto, flipping everyone around.
What gun does she typically use? Isn't it just like a standard like handgun?
Yeah, it's just like a standard handgun. Not a revolver, 'cause that's the old-fashioned one. But yeah, a fairly standard pistol.
Cool. So we'll give her a handgun.
She has a handgun, which
As
she
opposed
probably
to
doesn't even need.
an AK-47.
Yeah.
No problem, why not? Cool.
But yeah, so this could be our easiest decision ever.
We'll see. It depends who we have left.
Indeed. Our next... Oh, yeah.
I reckon Black Widow could put up a good fight. But we'll see.
If she's distracted, certainly.
Cool. On to the next one.
Our next film, it's what I like to call shit Blade Runner. It is, of course, Ghost in the Shell, the film that generated the controversy we mentioned earlier on, where Scarlett Johansson plays a character who is originally Asian, and in the film is meant to actually be Asian. They kind of make a thing of it in the plot, but not really, where her original character is called Motoko, before she's... I probably butchered that, I'm very sorry. Before she's renamed to Major. So basically, have you seen the film, Max?
No, but I get a lot of the premise.
Yeah, so...
yeah.
So basically, the premise is that the main character, Major, is a human brain put into a fully synthetic body as part of this new future where humans already augment themselves anyway, and this is like the next step, and they're also meant to be like an elite police force. And it's basically the same sort of themes as Blade Runner. Oh, identity. Oh, what about machine and man? It makes a difference. Except it's a really, really shit version of Blade Runner, and I feel dirty just comparing them like that.
Is the film actually, controversy aside, is the film actually good? Is there some interesting shots? Is there good action?
It looks quite nice. The world building makes it look quite nice, but the problem is, and I noticed it very early on, it fizzles out towards halfway through the film, but the first half of the film, every single scene ends with a really hammered home, in-your-face point of like the moral message of that previous scene. It's like a omnibus of little mini episodes which will have like a mini moral message. Like one scene, they basically every scene ends with a character going, "Major, you're still human. What makes you you is your actions, not what your memories say." And then another scene ends with like someone going, "Be careful. If you upgrade yourself too much, you lose the imperfections that make you you."
I see.
Every scene ends with like a line like that. Not those exact lines, but really hammy, ham-fisted, forced. Just, and I just rolled my eyes every time because it was just, oh, for fuck's sake, this is ridiculous.
Fair enough.
And then when it loses that, it sort of devolves into really like generic action movie stuff. There's a tank shooting at her and she shoots back with a machine gun. And
a tank?
Yeah.
You wouldn't imagine a tank being in this sort of kind of hyper-stylized futuristic world. That's quite interesting.
It's a future tank. It's got like spider legs that makes it walk. But yeah.
That sounds more like it.
Yeah. And it kind of, the end of it devolves into like a super generic superhero origin story. She literally has a bit at the end where she's standing on a skyscraper monologuing about this is what she's born to do, and she's always been leading to this.
Oh,
and then
probably.
she leaped off the skyscraper. It's, yeah.
Well, if you think about it, it was made in a time where superhero films were essentially the only films, sadly. It was played by someone who became famous for playing a superhero. It does seem like they were going for, and a lot of films do this these days, films that aren't about superheroes but they're framed where they basically become about superheroes.
Yeah, it's that lens very much dominated sort of pop culture, and to an extent still does, for better or worse. I'm trying
to think of another film that does it. There's so many. The Mummy 2017 I think does it a little bit.
Oh god, yeah, I heard about that. I've fortunately not seen it yet, but I'm sure I'll have to one day soon.
when you research the Tom Cruise episode. Anyway, so the character in Ghost in a Shell, what were her powers like? Because she seems like someone who's quite powerful.
She is. She's basically like a super-powered Black Widow, essentially. She's like a spy, but she's super fast, she's super strong, she can like cloak herself, which is a pretty nifty ability. She's great with like most weapons. So So yeah, that's more or less your standard deal, you know, kind of like Captain America, human abilities, but like at their peak, or because she's a robot,
Okay.
greater than.
So, better Black Widow, would we say?
Yeah, pretty much. She's not that strong.
Not to preempt.
Yeah, spoilers for the end of the film, but like she's trying to rip the lid off this tank, and it like rips one of her arms off because it strains too much. So she's quite durable. She survives an explosion, or she survives like a couple explosions at
Like a
blank
battery.
range. Sorry.
Never mind.
But yeah, so she's a good fighter. Any other day, one could say she's probably likely contender to win. However, we do have a literal god on the playing field this week. So
Yes. Yes.
it may be in vain.
Cool. Does she have any weapons on her that we can grant her?
She's not got any like main go-to weapons. She just sort of has like a variety she pulls out over the film. Like one scene she has a handgun, another scene she has like a big machine gun. So nothing that's like unique to her, but she probably carries a handgun most of the time. So
A handgun? Giving her a handgun? Sweet.
Yeah.
Cool.
She's
Who's
also
next?
weirdly spends most of this film. I don't know if it's accurate to the source material or not. I'd hope so. Otherwise, it's a really weird choice. She spends the entire film in this like skin tight, just off skin colour bodysuit. So you feel like you're watching a naked Scarlett Johansson beat people up the entire film, which is really
But
weird.
isn't that meant to be the robot skin?
No, because then like you see her robot skin at a different point, and it's like distinctly different to this bodysuit. So that's an odd choice, unless I misread the film. But
Interesting.
that was an odd choice. But yeah, not great if it's meant to be some sort of empowering Scarlett Johansson film. But there we go. Anyway, next Gladiator.
Yes.
We're taking a bit of a dive, you could say here, in a different direction, a deep dive to Bikini Bottom. Because many years ago, there was a good SpongeBob film made, not like the one we've both talked about recently, where Scarlett Johansson plays Mindy, who is the daughter of King Neptune, if I remember correctly, not King Poseidon, like the new one.
No.
So she's a mermaid, fairly standard mermaid stuff, no particular powers unique to her. She does have the ability to grant strength to others by giving them a seaweed moustache. However, I feel it's not going to be particularly used to her in this battlefield.
I could just imagine like him putting like seaweed on Black Widow's face. What the fuck?
You need to power up Black Widow, otherwise you're doomed.
If you remember last time on our Matt Berry podcast, we had a mermaid from SpongeBob in that. What we'd had decided at the time was that on land would be able to survive, but it would be some sort of what's the word?
Like a
creature without language, without a voice, without justification outside of what would look quite slimy and scary and tentacly and would just sort of shriek. So it would sort of seem like some great creature of the Black Lagoon. Are we having a similar creature of the Black Lagoon?
I believe we are, yes. No amount of hair can change the fact that she is this sea beast.
Yes.
Yeah, no particular powers. She's quite small, I imagine, compared to our other competitors. She's about the same size as Patrick, who is a starfish. So, if we're going by accurate scaling, she's quite small compared to the rest of our competitors, which will be another downside.
Yeah. Interesting.
But we do like that film. It's a fantastic film, unlike the other SpongeBob film.
Very fun film.
Very fun, and for adults too. Still good to this day,
Yeah.
unlike the new childish crap.
God damn, they make a kids film out of a kids product.
Disgusting. I know. Why can't everything be made for me exactly how I want it? Grrr, I'm going to petition Hollywood to remake a film. Anything particular to say in regards to Mindy / the SpongeBob
Not really.
filmmates? Nah.
Scary fish monster.
Yeah.
Let's go. Moving on.
Straight on to our next competitor, Rosie Betzler from the film Jojo Rabbit. A fairly regular human person.
Yeah. I thought Peter Rabbit. So I was like, does she play a bunny? No,
Not
Jojo
quite
Rabbit.
yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good film. Very
Yeah.
good film. I'm a big fan myself. What do you think of the Jojo Rabbit, Max?
I think it has an incredible amount of strengths. I think to make a war film with so much colour is probably the biggest strength and the most original side of it. It's funny. There's some really funny bits. I loved, what's his name? Oh god, I love him so much. No, the guy from Iron Man 2.
God, yes. Oh, I'm having a blank too, because he's great. Justin Hammer. God, what's he called?
Yeah. Right, we're going to find this, because he's one of my favourite actors.
He's great. He is great.
Clearly.
Yeah. Sam Rockwell. Sam Rockwell,
yes. Yes, he's great. And he's great in more or less everything he's in.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, there's some real standouts. The child acting, really good. The comedy, really good. Very colourful, very bright film. Having someone play Hitler is, in the context of it, quite funny. So yeah, solid film. That beat with his mum is very good. Very good writing. Very good storytelling of showing, not telling.
It hits you right in the feels, but it doesn't overload you with it. It just shows you the situation and just...
No, I never got that upset by it, but I remember getting that emotional hit. There's sometimes with writing, or I guess with films when it's done well, where you do sort of get like an imaginary sort of punch. And it does hit you, and I love striving to write that to success of varying levels. But yeah, it's a very fun film. When I saw it, I wasn't taken back by it, but I think that was more of a kind of like everyone hyped it, and then when I went in and saw it, it was a really good film, really solid film. But when there's always like such good hype going into a film, the film immediately struggles because it's got to live up to such a good name, which is why I think it's always good to kind of lie and sort of say how bad a film is, so you go in and get kind of pleasantly surprised. If I was told it was awful going in, I would have come out loving it. You know?
Yeah. That explains most of your film reviews. It all makes sense now.
No, because I went into Dune wanting to like it. I went into Dune so neutral and came out meh.
Oh, controversial.
Anyway.
I'm sure we'll come back to that one day when you do a Jason Momoa episode. Or
I can justify. I can use facts and language and my skills as a writer to justify my point. And people will be able to use their knowledge of cinematography to make their point. And then you have a conversation to which we ultimately agree that they're sort of both right, and then life moves on.
Indeed.
And we find another film.
Indeed.
Because Dune will be forgotten. Anyway.
Oh, that's a bold prediction.
No.
I'm going to predict the opposite.
I'm trolling.
Hopefully it'll do well at the award season. I do think it could. I do think it should. It seems like it could get some, because it's getting quite a lot of buzz. It did at the time.
It could get cinematography, costume, those sort of things. I wouldn't say there was an actor role that I think stood out enough for a nomination.
I think I'm having a really bad day with actors' names, but his mum did a fantastic job. The only problem,
she was good.
Yeah, the only problem she might have is that while she is basically the female lead of the film, she's not really marketed as such, so I'm not sure if they'll put her in for that category.
No, you could... it would probably go under supporting actress, I think.
Yeah, probably.
But I could be wrong. Anyway, Jojo Rabbit.
Yes, Jojo Rabbit.
Scarlett Johansson.
I thought it was... I quite liked it, but yeah, I think you make a good point about, not overselling a film. That's why I always leave like these big Netflix trends a few months before I watch them, so I can make up my own mind. But yes, in the film, Rosie Betzler, nothing remarkable about her power set. She's, I believe, leaking anti-Nazi propaganda, so she's got a cunning about her. So that could come into play on the battlefield. But other than that, she's probably one of our weakest, if not our weakest competitor.
Screwed. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
Who do we have next?
Next up, we mentioned them earlier on. It is the porcupine from Sing, named Ash. Ash the porcupine from Sing.
Oh, you are using a character from Sing. So
I am.
Have you seen Sing?
I have indeed. I watched it last night for this very podcast.
Well done. Is it good? I've heard that it's not too bad, actually. I'm just, as a 23-year-old kind of male into sort of kind of horror/thrillers, I'm not sure it's my cup of tea.
Yeah, it's probably not your targeted demographic.
No.
Until the halfway point, I was questioning why it was an animated film with animals in it, because it could have just been the same story with, actual actors in a live-action category. But the animals make it cuter, I guess. And then there's some things that happen at the halfway point where you go, okay, this kind of justifies it being an animated animal thing. I think, in a way, it suffers from what I call the original Suicide Squad problem, where it tries to do the whole Guardians of the Galaxy thing, where it has like a great soundtrack going and like songs for each scene, but it chooses really obvious and certainly now, and I think maybe even at the time, slightly outdated hit songs. Like, you'll just be watching a scene and then this song from the top 10 charts of 2014 starts playing and it has a tethered, tangible, strange.
I was going to say, Elton John's "I'm Still Standing" is a classic. It's a banger.
Oh yeah, the actual songs they sing themselves in the show, they're good. I think I'm comfortable saying all the actual songs they sing are pretty solid. But I'm talking about like there's scenes where like the main character, this koala, is like lamenting the loss of his theatre, and then I can't remember what song it is, but it's like this sort of sad top 20 chart hit from 2014, and I'm like, oh. Okay, this is kind of like, it just felt a bit awkward to me, which is what the original Suicide Squad did, which is why I call it that problem. But it's not terrible. I had a good time overall. It's very manufactured. It feels like it's a manufactured attempt at a Pixar rather than like a natural attempt at a Pixar.
Okay. What company did it? Was it Pixar?
It's on Disney Plus, but that says very little these days because fucking everything's on Disney Plus.
Right, okay.
I think
probably
it's a
Disney then, even though Disney and Pixar is it. Anyway, so Scarlett Johansson's Porcupine.
Yes, so she is a punk rock porcupine. She has a guitar at all times, which could come in useful.
What about Scarlett Johansson as a porcupine?
What was that? Sorry, you're asking. Oh, I was just going to say her. She's got a guitar at all times, so that's at one point it plays loud enough to like shake the foundations of a building, so that could be a useful weapon. Her main attack strategy, she seems to be able to like project the quills from her back in most directions, which not deadly, but they can be an irritant to other competitors, and that's more or less it.
Can she do that by choice? Or is that one of the things where, she'll get nervous and a porcupine thing will shoot from her back?
It mainly seems to be something that happens when she gets like into her songs. She's getting like really excited playing her final song when it just shoots out everywhere. And it's not clear if it's a
so there's a lack of control.
Yeah, they don't make her the extent of her powers clear in the film because it's probably not what their main intention was. But
fair enough.
So I feel comfortable saying
it's essentially a porcupine.
Yeah, it's a porcupine that can sing.
If we're saying that Mindy is just some strange creature that nobody can understand, are we saying that the porcupine, nobody can understand what this porcupine is saying?
I'm saying they can't understand the words, but they can understand the melody that she sings. And that's a great melody that porcupine is singing. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Interesting.
Yeah. Where's my list gone? But yeah, I'm sure we'll see a development of her power set in Sing 2, but I don't believe that's out yet, so we'll maybe come back for a rematch episode. Now, that was the first of what I call the animal trifecta, because next up, we have Car from the Jungle Book remake, who is a giant fucking snake.
Not from Cars. Yeah, a giant snake.
A giant snake.
That's going to do well, surely.
Yeah, and like compared to humans, you see its scale compared to humans, and it's a big fuck off snake. It's got like hypnotic eyes, the usual Car stuff. Big old mouth.
Yo, this is my favourite. Fuck Lucy.
I guess it's down to if the
She's gonna get
hypnosis can
munched.
overwhelm Lucy's god powers. Because if it can, then maybe Carl's in for the shot.
Don't see why not.
But yeah, I'll confess, this film I googled because I don't really like the live action remakes, and I saw Carl was in one scene, so I was I don't need to watch a film for one scene. So I got the gist of the power set from there. But have you seen it, Max?
Mm-hmm. I've seen the original, the cartoon, but I haven't seen the live action. Again, I'm a 23-year-old man. I don't watch kids' films.
I watched the Lion King.
I watch MCU films. So.
I watched the Lion King out of curiosity, and it was terrible. No point to it. It's just a boring version of the original.
What, the Lion King?
The remake,
right. I see what
the
you
live
mean.
action remake version. Yeah,
the shot-for-shot remake.
Yeah.
This is what I say about a lot of films, and I should have said this about Ghost in the Shell, and it sort of dawned on me. And what it was Shang-Chi. So I started watching Shang-Chi, and I turned off about halfway through, to be honest, because I wasn't really that invested in it. But I was just sort of thinking to myself, so the whole point of Shang-Chi is that it's going to sort of bring martial arts films, and it's going to kind of bring it, I guess, to the public eye, and it's going to, it's a lot of homage to martial arts films. It's apparently meant to be shot like a martial arts film. The action's meant to be very kind of like the classic martial arts action, and it's bringing that genre to the mainstream. And I was watching Shang-Chi, and it just dawned on me that if I'm going to watch a martial arts film, why don't I just watch a martial arts film? Why not just watch Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon? Or something like that. And I guess it's the same with Ghost in the Shell. Because again, with these sort of adaptations of foreign properties, surely the original Ghost in the Shell is better than the American one. And,
I would imagine so.
Which is why they've done an adaptation. And it's the same with The Jungle Book and The Lion King. Like, why watch these original? Because I don't think they do much differently. Watch what made them great. Don't watch these sort of kind of shadows, I suppose.
Yeah. Because, a reinterpretation and remake should add some sort of new angle. Like, if the Lion King had done some great new twist, I'd be like, alright, fair enough. But the fact it is just the original, but shot for shot, and in live action, so it's more boring. It's like Shang-Chi, I was having an alright time with it until it got to the third act. It devolved into very generic MCU, big CGI monster battle. But then I was like, oh, for God's sake. But yeah, I agree where, you could, in theory, get the same film experience from just watching a traditional martial arts film. But it'd be so much more enriching, I feel. I mean, it'd probably be so much better. I mean, there'd be... I don't know, 'cause I imagine there's, well, I'm not sure. I'm sure the film quality and production may not be as strong because they're on a lot lower budget, but the heart, the passion, the actual skill of the action is probably at such a high level. Yeah. I mean, budget and
anyway.
That isn't everything. It's why classic Doctor Who I find better to, certainly the current era, at least. And even though the current era has better production values, the story and the talent of people behind the scenes and some in front of the camera, it's just better. So yeah, budget isn't everything.
Fair enough.
But yeah.
So in the Jungle Book, Scarlett
Carl,
Johansson plays a giant snake that's 30 foot long.
Yeah, big old snake with hypnosis
who also
powers.
has hypnosis.
Yeah.
That's going to be tough to beat.
It's going to be a challenge. I think Black Widow might need that moustache from Mindy after all.
God. Yeah.
But yeah.
That seems devastating.
But moving on to the third of the Animal Trifecta, a film that I really, really wanted to watch and tried to track down, but couldn't find it somewhere where I didn't have to pay money for it, so I had to do extensive research. Isle of Dogs. Scarlett Johansson plays a Nutmeg, a former show dog.
Oh, cool.
It's a film I've been circling for
Nutmeg,
years,
the show
and it
dog.
looks great. Wes Anderson, he's normally a sign of quality, I think you can say, to say the least.
Yes, Grand Budapest Hotel's very incredible, as are a lot of his other films. French Dispatches came out, I think, last year.
Yes, it did. That's meant to be pretty solid, I do believe.
So tell us about Nutmeg.
Nutmeg is more or less your standard dog. Used to be a show dog. No particular powers, although she is recruited as a security dog by the end of the film, like a security guard dog.
Oh, okay.
So that would apply like...
So there's a bit of a bite.
Yeah, like peak dog abilities. You know, she can run fast. She's got a good bite on her. That's probably the extent of her powers, because she's not granted any supernatural abilities during the film. But yeah, show dog, so can respond well to commands, although not that she wants to in this case. Security dog, but
not that she's getting anyone from get anything.
Yeah,
security dog. That's going to be the most the base of their power. Yeah,
it is explicitly mentioned when I was googling that they can understand humans, but humans cannot understand them. So she can understand what the other gladiators are saying, but they won't be able to understand her barks.
Okay. Cool.
But yeah, a dog. Basically a standard dog on the battlefield. How well will she fare? I hope well, because I like dogs. I don't want anything bad to happen to any dog. So I'm going to try really hard to give her the win.
Cool. Therefore, I'm going to do my hardest to give her the loss.
No!
To neutralise the bias.
Next up, we go back to films I did manage to watch. The Prestige.
Oh, yeah, she's in The Prestige, isn't she?
She plays Olivia, the assistant to the magicians.
So you've seen The Prestige, yeah?
I have.
As the Christopher Nolan hater that you are, what do you think?
I wouldn't describe myself as a Christopher Nolan hater. I'm a skeptic. I would say I'm a Christopher Nolan skeptic. And I do go back and forth. I think our debate sort of make me double down because I'm stubborn like that. But I go a little bit back and forth. I don't like his behind-the-scenes practices, let's say, for Christopher Nolan. I think he, with the whole Tenet stuff, where it's like, oh, you have to see this in a cinema, even though it's a global pandemic. You just have to. It won't be the same on a home theatre. And all his chairs on set stuff, that's what irks me. Comes across.
I don't mind a no chairs on set rule.
The no chairs,
Tarantino has no phones on sets.
The no chairs I mind less, but it's the general air of pretension he has around him which irks me, shall we say. But I've always admitted
this
that his
boy
talent.
Who grew up from I don't know.
What?
Never mind.
Yeah,
I was going to make a point that probably was going to shoot itself in the foot.
Interesting. But yeah, I've always said that he's talented in front of the camera. His films are always very well directed. I think the story and character can be, there are times where it's not as great as people may think. The case of the Nolan wife in particular is a big drawback to Christopher Nolan. But he's
an auteur.
He's got a lot. He does have a lot of talent, and that's undeniable. And The Prestige, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a very good film. I did see the final twist coming a mile off, which I feel like I wasn't meant to. The way it's meant to try and shock you with the final shot and everything. You're meant to go, "Oh my god, I had no idea!" But as soon as you saw, I think the one moment I knew for certain is when you first saw the hat, and I was, "Oh yeah, basically what I thought has indeed been the case." But yeah, spoilers for The Prestige, I guess, in case you mentioned the twist. But yeah, good film. There were some twists that I didn't predict. I'm normally pretty good at predicting movie twists. Like when we watched Us, and in the first 5 minutes, I turned to you, and I didn't say what the twist was. I didn't spoil it, but I did say I know exactly where this is going, and I was right. But yeah, a good film.
Fair enough.
A good film. And some great
Scarlett Johansson's character.
Yeah, so she's a magician's assistant, so she knows the tricks of the trade, but without the equipment, which they make a big deal of saying is a big part of the act, that's not going to be all that useful on the battlefield.
Yeah. Maybe we could give her a deck of cards to try and bamboozle someone, because otherwise she's just going to have to run for her life, really. Yeah. And hope for the best.
We could grant her the machine for the transported man, but I'm not sure how much use that would even be. No. Even though she doesn't use it anyway, so not herself.
No, she doesn't use it.
But yeah, I guess deck of cards will grant her. And maybe one of those fancy bird cages, because she spends a lot of time with the bird cages, so maybe she picked one up before she got transported to this arena.
Cool.
But yeah, have you seen The Prestige, Max? As the Christopher Nolan lover?
Yes, I've seen The Prestige twice. I wouldn't say I was a Christopher Nolan lover. I feel you give him a bad rap sometimes. I think if we go through it, Memento I actually haven't seen, but I've heard it's very good. He made a short film before that was very good. Then I think it was The Prestige that was very good. Then Batman Begins, Dark Knight, all good film. So 5 good films there. I think Inception's really good. Interstellar's quite good. Tenet I thought wasn't very strong at all, and I was very disappointed with Tenet. And I remember at the time I was scared to say my opinion because I was scared that everyone thought it was amazing, and I thought it was quite bad. But then one of our friends were like, "Oh, I thought it was rubbish," and I was like, "I thought it was rubbish too." But this is the thing: if he's made 7 or 8 films, he made Dunkirk, which was okay. I think 1917 was better.
I think Dunkirk's very much been eclipsed, by 1917.
Yeah,
but
if he's made about 8 or 9 films, I think 6 or 7 are good, which is quite a good turnover. And I like that, he didn't go to any kind of traditional film school. He just started making films and, tried to get as far as he can. Because his style is so original, and because his approach to films is very unique. He's an auteur. I'd label him under auteur.
Yeah.
Auteurs. I think if he was to fault a bit, it would be in the writing and the script part. And as somebody who focuses a lot on scripts, I think some of his characters can seem a bit loose, and I know there's a nuance and there's a meta nature to calling one of your protagonists the protagonist, but I felt it was a bit lazy. I didn't think it really worked as a sort of beat in the narrative structure of it. I thought him being called the protagonist sort of made little to no sense and was not really that significant at all.
Yeah.
I like Christopher Nolan a lot. Yeah. I think he's very good, and I think he exhibits going from, just a kid who wanted to make films to becoming, one of the hot directors at the minute. And I think that's always encourageable.
I think Tenet is the prime example for me of his pretension getting the better of him artistically, where stuff like
his films are always quite pretentious. That's the thing. His films, it's quite interesting because I would describe his films as quite pretentious films. There's something very clean about them. That's very kind of upper class about them. It's very kind of you've got to buy into it or you don't get it at all. So there is, I feel it's quite interesting. There is an element of pretension in the films he makes, but when the films are good, I think it works. And maybe when the films maybe aren't as good, it crashes and the pretension maybe comes seeping out.
That's it. It's about the balancing act of it. You can be pretentious, but be justified be talented to justify the pretension. But yeah, I'm sure we'll come back to discussing some of his films another day. I have thoughts on the Dark Knight trilogy, which you know, but maybe we'll discuss them on the pod when he talk about Christian Bale or something. But yeah, so we'll leave it there for now because
Christian Bale would be a good one.
So
who do we have next?
Our final competitor before the wild card is another film we've already mentioned earlier on, and another character who's probably going to die fairly quickly. It's Nicole from Marriage Story, a completely human wife, actress, person with no special abilities at all that will be useful in a battle sense. But she's in a very good film.
Except Academy Award level drama.
Exactly. She can chuck her Oscars and her BAFTAs at people.
Yeah.
But yeah, a very good film. I watched it for the first time finally on Netflix the other day, and yeah, it was good. I just I let it sit with me. I just watched it and let it watch over me, and I enjoyed it.
Let language, let drama, let dialogue run the story. We don't need action, we need character and beauty and gloriousness.
Well, it's like a balanced diet. I feel you need a bit of both. But yeah, it's a very good film. She has no particular abilities to mention, except that one scene where she shouts very well. Any thoughts on Marriage Story, Max?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think there's something quite... Because Revolutionary Road is a film about a couple who just sort of fight and argue. And I don't know, it's quite an interesting thing. It's such a sort of basic premise, couple fight. But I think you can do so much with it. And you can get very powerful... And this is the interesting thing. It's quite difficult to work out what makes something iconic. It just sort of happens, really. What iconic really means is it's talked about. It stays in the media long after it's had its time, so to say.
Yeah.
I think an interesting comparison is The Dark Knight is always talked about, and it probably will be talked about for a considerable time afterwards. The Godfather is still talked about and referenced. Well, going back to The Dark Knight, so The Dark Knight is always sort of kind of in culture, but films like The Joker, and the tricky thing is Joker's only been out a couple of years, so it's still sort of riding the wave of, well, it's still in its sort of moment, but I'm really interested to see if Joker's talked about in 10 years to the same level as The Dark Knight, and I think that's when you'll be able to kind of get a grasp of how culturally relevant something is.
Yeah.
Is it still being talked about in 10 years' time?
It's not
and
even...
maybe it will be, maybe it won't be. Will The Simpsons do a parody of it? Will South Park do a parody of it? Will Family Guy do a parody of it? It sounds like a juvenile thing to say, but that's a sign that something's kind of culturally relevant. And back to Marriage Story, that argument scene is culturally relevant. There's,
It is iconic,
it's still around. I know it only came out a couple of years ago, in fairness, so, like Joker, it's still sort of riding that wave.
I think you can tell, because it came out...
clearly had an impact.
Yeah.
It's had an impact.
It came out the same time frame as Joker, and people talk about Marriage Story more than they do Joker. Like, I only ever see Joker really discussed when people are shitting on it or making memes about certain scenes, and that's about it. And it's because it's just a remake of a few Martin Scorsese films thrown together and given a lick of clown paint and told it's a comedy.
Yeah, I do remember, bit of a diversion, but I remember when we came out of Joker being told that, if you've seen Taxi Driver, then this heavily influences Taxi Driver. And I watched Taxi Driver a couple of months ago, and it is so like it in sort of the way it looks, the way it's shot, the references. It does sort of stick out like a sword. So if you've seen Taxi Driver,
and
I'm
King
not
of
sure
Comedy.
you'll appreciate Joker as much. But, we don't want to give Joker too much of a hard time.
Yeah, King of Comedy is also heavily drawn on, to say the least.
But the film The Joker has its moments. It's got the staircase scene, and that might still be relevant in 10 years, So it might do, we just have to wait. But I think Marriage Story is... my point really was, it's interesting that a story which is just two people talking, essentially for an entire runtime, and people it's still in them. And that's why I love kind of films, and even the small films where there's nothing big happening, there's no world-ending situation, it's two people worried about their lives and the responsibility they have in their son.
I think what resonates is that
is so powerful and stays with you.
Yeah. I think what resonates is that it is a very realistic depiction of, how a marriage breaks down, and it feels like you're watching actual people's lives in front of you, and that's why I found it easy to just sort of sit with it, because, I just felt like it was life happening around me, and I was just sort of watching and not having to participate. And yeah, it's very well done. Very realistic, great performances, a nice ending to end on too.
But she has no powers
in a very nice way.
I think it comes sort of full circle, structurally. But she has no powers and is going to be in trouble
instantly
from the get-go.
Yeah. So that is that's our 10 gladiators. I do have a wild card.
Yep.
So I touched on it earlier when I said her controversy, Scarlett Johansson's controversy, gave us her wild card. So when she rather clumsily attempted to defend the whitewashing, she mentioned that as an actor you can play anything, any person, any tree. And I saw that and thought, let's put that to the test, shall we, Scarlett? So our wild card is a tree. Just a tree. A regular old tree.
Scarlett Tree Hansen.
Exactly. I think we'll be fair. We'll give it a nice solid tree, a nice oak moss kind of thing, a nice big oak thing.
To run with this idea, is it a literal tree, or is it Scarlett Johansson, like you see in those like really kind of crappy like kids plays where it's a painted tree and there's like a hole cut out in the middle where her face is, and she's got branches like for arms and stuff.
I did think about that, and I think it could be very funny. Or it's either that, or the other option is literally just a giant actual tree, but the voice of Scarlett Johansson emanates from it. But it can't move or do anything. So I'll allow you to pick which option you would prefer, because I find both hilarious.
So it's going to be my pick.
I'll allow you to.
I will pitch to you. How the hell do you kill a tree? Or I mean, you can kill a tree, but it seems like it's going to be a long process. Whoever's the winner is just going to spend a couple of hours chopping down this tree and destroying the roots. So it feels like it's just a chore for whoever wins it to do. So I think if we went for sort of Scarlett Johansson as, the cardboard cutout of a tree, I think that could be funnier.
I agree. So we'll go with Scarlett Johansson as a primary school play tree is the wild card.
Scarlett Tree Hansen.
So, to go over our competitors, we have Black Widow, Lucy, Major, Mindy, Rosie Betzler, Ash the Porcupine, Car the Anaconda, Snake, whatever, Nutmeg the Dog, Olivia the Magician's Assistant from The Prestige, Nicole from Marriage Story, and Scarlett Johansson as a primary school tree. There are
Scarlett Tree Hansen.
Scarlett Tree Hansen, indeed.
So where are we?
Yes, I did mention that I had an idea in mind to nerf Lucy. So she needs to concentrate. So I'm thinking some sort of chaotic battlefield. She has to hold together, in order to preserve herself. And I thought, do you remember the trailers for Black Widow, Max? Do you remember how?
Yes.
Do you remember how they focused heavily on an element which was from the climax of the film, where an exploding helicarrier leads to our heroes plummeting through a debris of falling, burning wreckage?
Yes.
I propose our battlefield this week is the frozen wreckage, frozen in midair by Lucy's power to keep her, nerfed. She has to focus on holding it all in midair. And it's our first kind of, a potential ring out where if someone's knocked off a platform when they can't get to another one, they're doomed. They're plummeting to their death. So, I propose,
they're in.
Yeah.
Right. Let's. Oh, okay. Let's try and make sense of this. So there's just sort of it's sort of like Mario. There's just sort of blocks and standing and platforms in the sky.
Yes.
But they're frozen in midair by Lucy.
Yes.
So if Lucy dies,
they all plummet.
The whole thing collapse.
It does, unless she can weld it.
What about the snake? How does the snake travel from platform to platform?
They can slither along. They've got a fairly good body strength. They can slither because they're a big snake, so they can stretch from one platform to another.
Right. So is it the actual a big football? So the size of a football pitch, sort of area, just hovering in midair.
Yeah. It's the same sort of size as our usual battlefield, but it's all like broken platforms in midair, like bits of wreckage they can cling to or like run across. And
I see. Yeah, okay. Oh yeah, fuck it. Let's go with it. Let's do it. So it's just a big sort of sky platform with wreckage around it, frozen in midair by Lucy.
Yeah, so like they can like
thinking that if Lucy dies, it does plummet.
It does, and they will all die. So. But yeah, they can jump from platform to platform. They can swing platforms at each other if they're strong enough. It's a very malleable battlefield. It's all dependent on Lucy's will to keep it in the air.
I have a question.
Yes.
As a way, because this was built to sort of nerf Lucy.
Yes.
How is this nerf Lucy when if she dies, everyone else dies? This has only made her more powerful.
Well, as we know, Black Widow does have a secret superpower where she cannot be killed no matter what height she falls from until she needs to for the sake of the plot. Because in that film, she should have died on multiple occasions. Major can survive a big fall.
Dan, you do remember she did die for...
She did, but only when the plot called for it, because if you think about that, there's at least 2 scenes in that film where she falls from a great height and should be killed, but is fine both times. She falls off the roof of the warehouse and like hits several metal things on the way down head first, and then she does survive the plummet to the ground in midair without a parachute. So, but yeah, it nerfs Lucy because while she's concentrating on this, she can't just instantly disintegrate people, and she can't just it reduces her power set. She can control people.
When we using Lucy from halfway through the film, so she's powerful, but she hasn't unlocked the ability to just Thanos snap people.
No, she can't Thanos snap people, but she does at 30%. So quite early on, she can instantly control people's minds and their bodies and stop things. So she's already quite powerful quite early on. So I feel this has to...
Okay.
Basically, it means she can't just control everyone. I propose that this nerfing means she can control a maximum of 2 other competitors' bodies at any one time, and not for a sustained period. So, her powers, but they're all reduced by the feat she is undertaking here.
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Let's just get into it.
I guess the alternative, if we didn't want to go with this, is the very cliff from Infinity War and Endgame. They all fight on the edge of the cliff, have to try and chuck each other over.
That would have been better. But no, you've picked it. Let's go with it.
Yeah,
I think
it.
Bite down. Let's double down.
So they're fighting in midair on this burning debris field suspended by Lucy's power.
The bell rings.
Ding ding. Battle commences.
Right. Interesting.
So Lucy knows what she has to do. There's no thinking about it. She just instantly holds everything in place. So while she's sort of getting her bearings, she can't instantly kill everyone. So that gives...
Now, has everyone... Here's the thing, and this is something we always kind of come to. The immediate reaction is going to be the holy fuck, look at this thing. And when we have a giant snake, we've got a rabid mermaid creature, and we've also got a woman who's clearly using kind of superpowers. How does everyone else react to the sight of this carnage?
So I think Nicole and Rosie, our most normal competitors, are instantly just screaming, just freaked out, don't know what the hell's going on. They're not really in a combat state at all, so they're prone. I think Olivia suspects it's some sort of magic trick and tries to work out how it's being done so she can get the upper hand.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, so she sort
of... Does this mean she
approaches
Lucy to sort of kind of be like, oh... How is this done? Oh, I've seen this trick done before.
Yeah, not immediately. I think she sort of walks around Lucy a little bit, or jumps from platform to platform around Lucy, and tries to see, sort of like they do in the film when they go on stage and trying to see what's going on. And then, she does eventually approach Lucy to be like, how are you doing this?
Fair enough.
So, Rosie and Nicole are screaming, so they're prone. Olivia's asking Lucy what happens. Black Widow, she knows what's going on. She's been here before. She knows this battlefield. So knowing what
who's she going after?
Yes, as a master assassin, I think she would probably target what she identifies as the biggest threat first. Which I think in this case is probably Major, who does the exact same thing as Black Widow, where she's also like, right, what's the biggest threat here? And she clocks Black Widow approaching her, maybe. So I think it's Black Widow versus Major.
So they're locked in a battle.
Yeah. They go straight for it.
Right.
Now, Major is vulnerable to electricity. She seems to have a really hard time when someone like stuns her in the film. Black Widow,
perfect.
Yeah, Black Widow has like her little bite things they called, aren't they? Her little taser thing she has on her wrists.
Wait, let me get this straight. So the one character who needs to survive unless everyone else dies.
Yeah.
Black Widow has stunned her.
No, not her.
Successfully.
Not her. Major, the robot from Ghost in the Shell.
Oh fuck! Sorry. Sorry.
So yeah, she has her little taser things, and the robot is vulnerable to tasers. And yeah, Lucy, they know they can't kill Lucy just yet. They're trying to figure out a solution to that problem.
Are they? Would Black Widow not just go straight for Lucy?
Well, I feel she's smart.
She's the biggest threat.
She knows. Well,
she has no prior knowledge. She sees someone and she's powerful, like Thanos, and she goes for him.
But she does have the advantage of coming from a world of superheroes, so she knows if she sees, a woman sort of straining with her hands held out, she goes, "Oh, that's like Scarlet Witch. Oh, and they're those guys who just sort of hold stuff in the air with their hands." So I think she can.
So you think she wouldn't? So you don't think she'll go for the most powerful person then?
I don't think so immediately. I think she goes for Major, who is the biggest threat that isn't holding them all in the air.
What about the snake?
The snake?
About a 30-foot snake.
Now, the snake, meanwhile, has identified two snacks, a porcupine and a dog. They're both right in the...
right.
The
and humans. I think they'll chomp on a human quite comfortably.
They will, but I think they want like a starter, you know? Like, you don't want to go straight for the main course sometimes. You want like a little starter to warm you up. So, Nutmeg is running for her life. And she's succeeding, you know? She's a fast dog. She's definitely not eaten straight away. I think the porcupine can give the snake some trouble because it's got quills. That's literally like its purpose in nature. It can not be eaten because it's sharp.
It can sort of defend itself. Okay, yeah, I'm willing to accept that. I noticed that Scarlett Johansson is a tree, and that's where snakes live. So I don't know if the snake is going to protect Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, okay.
That's what I think.
Yeah, so
I think the snake is going to protect Scarlett Johansson and is going to go for the nearest person who maybe the dog.
So I buy that the anaconda goes for the tree to wrap itself around and make itself at home.
Yep.
Now, of course, Scarlett Johansson, being the incredible actress that she is, can support this body weight, even though it's a huge snake. Because she's.
I thought she can live up to the performance of a tree, so she's just like swaying slightly.
Now,
she's embodied the character of a tree. Proving all the haters wrong.
We were starting to doubt you, Scarlett. Oh, we bow before your mighty tree performance. So now, dogs do famously like to piss on trees. So I feel that maybe Nutmeg the dog went to piss on the tree before the anaconda got into it, and then was unaware to its fate as the snake wrapped itself in the tree. And I don't want to do it, but I think we know what happens.
So a dog who knows that it's in a fight to the death and sees Scarlett Johansson is so convinced by her performance that she goes to have a piss, not seeing the 30-foot snake that is next to her somehow.
Well,
the dog gets munched.
She's a very convincing tree. What do you want me to say? We can't doubt the power of her performance. It's
So, Nutmeg, the dog that you've swore to protect, has been gobbled up by a snake.
Yes, I feel I can't deny it. I just hope it's a quick death compared to what could have been.
Nice.
So,
the porcupine sees that, holy fuck, and just starts kind of hiding, goes into protection mode.
yeah, because it knows it's next. I feel, in the absence of going for the porcupine, it then goes for Mindy. You know, a little fish, quite a tasty little starter morsel. I feel, the snake then goes for...
Is it not too slimy? Will it not think it is one of its own?
Would a snake think a mermaid is another snake? That's... I'm going to give Car more credit than that, but I don't know.
Probably not. But I don't know, does that look like the tastiest dish?
I think it's a whole starter thing, you know? It's... but maybe this dog was enough as a starter. Who have we got left? Let's see.
Well, to be honest, this is a fight to the death. We have to remember.
Yes.
So the snake doesn't need to eat them. It just needs to kill them. So
I think
who's basically closest to the snake?
The snake Car does like to prey on people it views as vulnerable. And as we mentioned, Nicole and Rosie are still like just hysterical. Well, not hysterical maybe, but they're upset at what's happening. They don't really understand the situation they found themselves in. So I feel Car identifies that and goes straight for Nicole, we'll say first, because Rosie's maybe got a few smarts that can give her the slight edge. So I feel Nicole is then also gobbled up by Car. And that's, another fighter gone.
Now, what's Mindy doing at this point? Because I think Mindy isn't the most intelligent in this kind of bestial mermaid form, but knows it's in a fight to the death. Yes. So I think Mindy may go for one of the more aggressive characters. May go for a Lucy.
Interesting. Okay.
Or a Ghost in a Shell or a Black Widow.
Now, does she try to bolster some other gladiators to do the work for her? Does she whip out her seaweed moustaches in the hopes that she can buy herself an alliance with Black Widow or Major?
Oh, well, who would she trust? Who would she approach? Would she approach Rosie, who is a fighter of certain campaigns?
This is true.
So maybe she goes to Rosie. But this is the thing, as we've established, she's just a disgusting, horrible, incomprehensible mermaid creature. Rosie doesn't understand what's going on. So, essentially, Mindy has to rugby tackle Rosie, slap some seaweed on her face, Rosie screaming the entire time, thinking she's about to die. But then she's released with seaweed on her face, and then pushed off into battle against Lucy because she's the strongest.
I see how this goes
down. So what we have...
Mindy tackles Rosie.
We have Lucy. Yep.
Yeah, Mindy tackles Rosie. Like you say, that all plays out like you said, but then before Rosie can realise what she's doing with her newfound man strength she's gained from the moustache, and in her fit of hysteria, she throws Mindy just fucking miles straight off the platform, and Mindy plummets to her death.
What?
Rosie has the power of the moustache, but she didn't realise what she was doing, and I feel...
But they don't have powers in the fucking film. That's the whole point.
No, but if we break this down, Mindy is still the size of a fish. I think Rosie can probably throw a fish quite far.
Oh yeah, she is the size. Oh yeah, she is the size of a fish. Oh yeah, okay. So Rosie just launches Mindy off the platform.
Yeah, gone. Plummets to her death. Our first ring out death of Fightography.
So Mindy has created. So Mindy has created this super confident character, and then Mindy has been eliminated by this character. And now who's Rosie going after? Because Rosie sensed blood now. I think Rosie sensed blood.
I think Rosie has identified that this anaconda has just eaten a human who looks familiar to her.
Wow.
It's just like her. So I think her confidence, she doesn't go for the the two karate masters who are kicking the shit out of each other, she goes straight for the snake, thinking that with her new power, her new confidence, her self-belief, she can conquer Car. Now,
but then she dies immediately.
I think Car does try his hypnosis thing, or her hypnosis thing, I should say, but Rosie's confidence overpowers it. You know, she believes in herself.
Whatever happens, Rosie Bettler is not killing a 30-foot snake.
No, but I'm just adding a bit of colour to it, you know, a bit of light and shade, you know, add some stakes. So, you know, you have hope for Rosie for a second where she overpowers the hypnosis of Car, and then Car just unhinges their jaw and just swallows Rosie whole.
Jesus Christ. Is anybody else seeing this? Is Lucy Ghost in a Shell or Black Widow seeing this snake just tear apart people?
So yeah, let's check in with what's going on. So
because
Lucy,
they're the most powerful people and they haven't done anything yet. What's going on with them?
Lucy is now awake. And she identifies that this snake is going to be a problem. It's killing people left and right. It's something that's got to be done. So, let's see, which of her enormous god powers shall she use to kill the snake?
Well, let's not make it so black and white. Let's explore this. How far away are Lucy and the snake from each other? Are they on other ends of the field?
Yeah, I think we'll put them up opposite ends of the field to give both like a fair reaction time. See if that's gonna
be problematic for the snake. So the snake is seeing Lucy is just gonna think she's a normal person, even though she's frozen this whole landscape. So the snake is gonna slither towards her, and I imagine the snake can be very quick, but Lucy just needs to sort of raise her hand really, and levitates her off the ground.
I think what happens, she shrinks Car first into the size of a regular snake with her god powers.
Can she do that?
Yeah, she can do literally. She has power over all matter.
Did she do that in the film?
She can control matter. She turned herself into a USB at the end. She's not had that power yet, but she's got most of that power fairly early on. So I think she shrinks Car to the size of a regular snake, and then flings him back towards Scarlett Johansson to give him a chance. You know, she's showing mercy. She knows she's going to have to kill him eventually, or kill her eventually. But she's like, I'll give you a stay of execution so you can treasure your last moments on this earth.
Has Scarlett Johansson convinced everyone that she's a tree?
Yes, totally. No one has any clue.
Lucy but this is a fight to the death, so I don't think Lucy will have this merciful air to her. I think she just yeets the snake off the platform.
I mean, she very well could do. I don't see what she's going to kill the snake later anyway. But it's would you not hope for a merciful god?
Thanks, Tuppence. Fucking hell, she's having a scratch. Yo,
is that the old Tup?
That is the Tup.
Hello, Tuppence. We'll give you the vote, Tuppence. Does Lucy immediately kill Car, or does she grant Car a stay of execution? One scratch.
She's licking her leg.
You know, Tuppence, is that a yes or a no in her body language?
I think Tuppence would want the snake to go.
Okay.
So I think the snake's gone.
Yeah, fuck
and
it.
I think the snake would realistically... Because we've got to remember, this is a fight to the death. There is no mercy. We want mercy, but on very rare occasions is someone going to be merciful. My question is, Lucy has been distracted by this giant snake.
Yes.
Is there an ambush from either Black Widow or Ghost in the Shell?
So, see, I think here's what happens. I'm revising, knowing that Car
Porcupine
is murdered. I think Lucy, instead of shrinking Car, I think she transforms him into a giant toy snake, which is another one of her powers. She can transform matter from one state to another. So I think she transforms Car into a giant toy snake, and then she does identify the Porcupine as just, the Porcupine's going to go for Lucy. Ash is getting her quills ready, whatever the fuck she wants to try and do. So Lucy immediately uses the giant toy of Car. It's a stuffed toy. and wraps it around the porcupine to dull the quills.
Jesus.
Keep them under wraps. So Ash, the porcupine, is just trapped, immobilised, unable to use her quills, and Car is dead as a toy snake. What say you?
This is so much to take in.
It's what happens when you put a god into a fight.
Fair enough. So the snake is now dead and is a toy.
Yes.
And what's Lucy doing with the toy to prevent the porcupine spikes?
She's just wrapped it around, because Car is a big snake. He'd be chunky enough to trap the quills so they can't fire out anywhere. And basically, it's like when you is she wrapping it around the porcupine? Yeah, like Doc Ock tentacle style, completely around the porcupine to trap all the quills so they can't shoot anywhere. Sort of smothering. Yeah. Okay. So what's Black Widow and Ghost in the Shell doing about this? So yeah, meanwhile, while this has been happening, we have two fairly evenly matched fighters, Black Widow and Major. Now, as mentioned, Major is vulnerable to electric shocks, but I don't think Black Widow knows that. Are they not going to both go after Lucy? I think they're having a bit of a hand-to-hand first. Considering they've just saw them massacre a snake, basically be a god, as you described. Yeah, so, their attention's not immediately going to go towards the threat. They've been fighting hand-to-hand for a little while. They're a bit battered and bruised, but yes, they see what's going on, and they agree to a temporary truce to try and solve this whole situation. Yeah. So they both size up Lucy. Now, the question is, what the fuck do they do to try and stop Lucy? Well, Black Widow would stun, and Ghost in the Shell would shoot bullets. Now, how effective would any of those techniques be? You tell me. Well, one of Lucy's earliest powers is just stopping bullets, so they're not going to do much. And does Lucy know they're coming? If she's distracted by a snake and a porcupine? I think because we're forgetting that Olivia was working out how this thing was being done. So I think maybe they clock eyes, that Black Widow and Major clock eyes with Olivia, and she's a magician's assistant, so she's used to communicating without actually talking. So she gets what they're thinking. So she starts asking Lucy, "How are you doing this? I'm a magician's assistant. This is amazing. This is a fantastic magic trick," and sort of talking to her. Now, I don't think this is going to distract Lucy enough on its own, but with the combined feat she's also handling a porcupine. Yeah, with the combined feat of holding the battlefield in the air and keeping the porcupine trapped, I feel this is enough to give Major and Black Widow a slight opening. So I think she hears the bullets coming. She does manage to stop the bullets, but Black Widow, but so you go on this whole elaborate thing about how she's so distracted, and then go, "Oh, sure." she can hear a gun, but what she can't hear is Master Assassin Black Widow getting behind her with her little stun bracelets and just shocking her. So Black Widow gets in the stun. Does the stun work? I think it does. Yeah, I think Lucy doesn't really feel pain, but the fact that brains operate on electrical signals, which is mentioned explicitly in the film, I feel that shorts out Lucy's electrical signal enough to throw everything into disarray. Okay, so the platform starts falling a bit. Yeah, it all starts rocking slightly and collapsing a little bit. The porcupine is released. Yeah, the porcupine is released. Is the snake still dead? The snake is still dead. I feel that was the one-way transformation that only Lucy can reverse. Okay, so the porcupine's released, and everyone's sort of gripping to the floor. Probably Lucy's standing because she's powerful enough to, but the whole world is collapsing. She's distracted. Now, what I have to ask you, Max, is do we somehow take the win from Lucy? If her concentration has been lapsed to this extent, the bullets she is just frozen in midair, would they not continue on their path and maybe hit Lucy?
Probably not, I would say. Like, this is the thing, I'm trying to be neutral and as unbiased as possible, even though I'm trying to find a solution to how anyone survives this falling platform.
Okay, so I think...
so would the bullet continue travelling? I don't think it would, or if it did, because they're all plummeting to the ground, it would miss, or it would maybe only wound. It wouldn't be, I don't think, a fatal blow, let's say.
Yeah, okay. But, yeah. So, Lucy's more or less fine, but they are all... They've been rocked slightly. Yeah, some of the platforms have fallen, the ones they're on have fallen slightly. I feel this wobbling, it's not going to be good for someone who is a tree without roots, proper roots, to root them to the platform. So I feel the sudden shock of the drop causes Scarlett Johansson to plummet to her death. She wobbles slightly and then falls out of the ring to her death, to her demise.
Was she standing by the edge?
I think she was standing just on a platform, but like when they all because they've all dropped slightly, that amount of rocking and vibrations I feel would be enough, because she's only a tree. But
what I would say,
so I think
what I would say, it causes her to fall over. Because this is the thing, if she's falling off the platform, I imagine Olivia's falling off the platform. Basically, anyone human has the potential to fall off the platform.
But I think the rest of
what
them
I'd say
can,
is
balance
her
themselves.
falling, her fall. Well,
because the others can
I think
move their legs around, but Scarlett Johansson's legs are stuck together, which is a much harder balance than if you can spread your legs out.
No,
and,
I think she can move. I don't think she has a shoelaces tied together.
Oh, I think she's in a full tree costume, which keeps her legs in a tube. Like the full primary school tube thing going on.
Okay, so I would say, I would counter with, she stumbles and she does fall over, breaking the illusion to everyone that she's a real tree. So now the immersion is broken and she's no longer got that defense sorted anymore. People know she's there and people are out to kill her. Okay,
yeah.
Does Lucy eventually stop the falling when she's recovered?
She
does. Recovered?
Yeah, she's recovered. It was like a lapse in judgment, but it's shaken up the battlefield. But yeah, she has recovered and frozen it all again. But I think this does now make the stakes clear that they cannot kill Lucy until they're sure of a way of surviving. Otherwise, they're all going to die.
Yeah. So Lucy's paused it in midair, and she is not happy.
No, she's pissed off.
Does she look at ScarJo, who got the attack off, and dispatch of her?
I think so. I think, yeah, she lifts Black Widow into the air with her telekinetic powers, and then...
and just flings her off the platform.
Yeah, I think she wants to recreate what happened in Endgame, not that she knows it, where she just, flings her and lets her drop, and that same emotional beat kicks in, and then you see her in the exact same pose on the floor from all these miles up, and she's dead.
What about Ghost in the Shell? Is a similar fate?
Now, she didn't actually get a proper hit in, but yeah, she identifies this as the next most hostile target, turns to Ghost in the Shell, and yeah, there's very little Major can do about this. I think, Lucy just pulls apart Major, just with her telekinetic powers. She just rips her apart into her cybernetic components and just chucks her human brain to the floor.
Olivia from the Prestige also betrayed her, so does she get flung off the platform?
Yeah, I think Lucy turns to her and goes, "You want magic? Go and fly," or some really crap line, because it's not a better thing. And then lifts her into the air and then drops her, and then she also plummets to her death.
Nice.
Which leaves...
Good choice, Dan.
Well, this happens sometimes, It's... So,
good thing we didn't kill the giant snake, the only thing that could have prevented this.
I don't know. I feel like the snake would have done very little other than what it already did. which leaves the Porcupine and Scarlett Johansson, who now tremble.
Scarlett Johansson.
They hug themselves, turn to each other in fear, and know that their death approaches them.
So Scarlett Johansson and the Porcupine hold each other, but Scarlett Johansson gets pricked, goes ow, stumbles in the pain, slips on a banana peel and goes off the platform.
Just so that Lucy doesn't get all the kills. Yeah. So, yeah, all right, I'll have that. Maybe without the banana peel, but yeah, she just backs off after being pricked and, yeah, falls to her death as well.
So a common occurrence on Fightography, the most powerful survivor versus somebody who's feeble and trembling and who's only been good at hiding, realistically.
Oh, no.
So we've got Lucy, a super being god, versus a porcupine that can sing, but Lucy doesn't know that.
Now, I have a plot twist here for you, Max. You may think this is
This better be good.
a surefire given. However,
Yes.
in the film,
Yes.
Lucy is explicitly dying. She has 24 hours because her cells cannot support their rate of growth. And so what she wants to do is pass on her knowledge however she can. Now, it's kind of hard to pass on your knowledge. It's hard to pass on your knowledge if everyone is dead. So what she does, she transforms herself, like at the end of the film, into a USB, which drops into Ashton Porcupine's paws with a message saying, "Pass me on."
So we say she spawns in when she's about halfway into the film. Does she know this at this point in the film?
I think, yeah, she knows fairly early on. Because about 20% brain capacity, she Googles everything about the brain and cells and goes, "Oh yeah, shit, I'm going to die in about 24 hours, probably." And then rings up with Morgan Freeman and he says, "Yeah, you are going to die in about 24 hours.
I would say that the purpose of the Battle Royale is a fight to the death, and I think she needs to survive before she goes on to pass it on to someone who isn't a fucking porcupine.
But the drama, Max, the drama of it. It's a subversion.
I think the porcupine's toast.
We can.
You should have thought about that, Dan, before fucking introducing a super god.
I was always going to subvert
You can't introduce a literal god and then want to subvert it and make them lose, especially when you kill a 30-foot snake, a master assassin, an offensive Japanese ripoff, and you're left with a porcupine. You can't do the twist once you got a porcupine left.
Well, you can't do the twist earlier, otherwise it's
And
just
then
a
you gave them
development.
the superpowers of holding up the bloody platform. So no matter what happens, if this godlike creature dies, everyone else dies as well. You can't subvert that. We're too far in. We're an hour and 37 minutes into this.
If the battle's won, then our competitors are returned to their home dimension, so she wouldn't have to worry about holding everything up anymore. The porcupine would be returned to the stage of Sing. But now, with a knowledge of all human knowledge...
the battle's not done, though, because there's still a porcupine there.
All right.
Look, I think she picks up the porcupine, doesn't get spiked, and if she does, she can't feel it. She gets her hand, sticks it up the porcupine's arse, grabs the top of its skull and turns it inside out and makes it into a pelt.
Oh, getting her hands dirty needlessly. Oh, God.
Because this is what happens when there's a super god in Fightography. And
what happens when it gets to Elizabeth Olsen?
Even more OP, and you kill them.
What happens when it gets to Elizabeth Olsen? We can't leave off Scarlet Witch, so we're going to have to get used to introducing gods to the battlefield.
Then I'm going to input some...
Our most controversial Fightography today.
We can't nerf these characters for no reason. Sadly, what's happened is we've introduced a godlike being into the battle arena, given them control of the arena, and killed off the most powerful thing about 5 people in. they won. I mean, realistically, the minute they spawn, they can just snap their fingers and basically they're all dead. So I'm amazed they've actually survived this long.
Well, you know.
I think she makes like L's out of her fingers, puts them together like an American football goal, and just punts that porcupine as far as she can.
If we want a godly use for her powers, she may as well turn the porcupine's spikes against it and just cause them to grow through the porcupine's bodies out through its
ingrowing
chest.
Porcupine?
Yeah, essentially.
So the porcupine dies a horrible, horrible death.
Yes, because Peter
are going to come for us.
Because we're not allowed the plot subversion, the porcupine dies a horrible death.
We're not allowed bias.
So, there we go. Lucy from Lucy has won our Fightography. She's massacred half the field. I mean, Carl got a good run.
It was sport. Who did well?
Carl got a good run. Carl got a few kills in.
Yeah.
Black Widow was the only one to make God bleed, essentially. So that's a point in her favour, I guess.
Black Widow did well. She did noble. She did as she would. All the human characters died quite easily. I think Scarlett Johansson did well.
Yeah, her amazing acting ability did her well.
Yep, but
in the end, it was always
that was never going to get too far. It was always going to be the godlike creature who was made even more powerful with them. Yeah.
Hey, that's what the fun of photography is. Some weeks we have a god, some weeks we have a chump. It's who knows how it actually could go. But there we have it. There we have it.
What do you guys think about this controversial?
Yes, this is our
decision. It was quite a hard battle, to be honest. It was quite a hard battle to predict. Because we always want to make it fun and interesting, and do throw in subversions without breaking law but there are times where it's pretty difficult, especially when your idea of nerfing the character is making them control the entire landscape of which everyone exists on.
It was a different sort of fight, It was different to the regular arenas we have. You got to mix it up sometimes. But I feel it was no matter what arena we were in, it was always a dead set that Lucy was going to win, because when you use all your brain, folks, you can literally do anything. You can become a god. So. And
that's the moral of the story. Use your brain, because we haven't for the last 2 hours.
Yes, this will be an interesting poll, provided people vote. We do have a result from last week. A much less controversial win. Spoilers for last week's episode. John Wick, 100% of the vote. I should expect. Yeah. I should expect, really. But this
John Wick,
week,
badass.
A challenging battle, a challenging decision to make.
Yeah.
Do we have any emails?
And I can't wait to the champion of champions.
Yes.
Do we have any emails? Let's check.
I think we might have one.
Let us check. We do have an email.
Oh.
Which, there's no formality. There's no hello. There's no introduction. There's no yours sincerely. So, very poorly written email. Saying don't kill the cat.
I wonder who that could be from.
But it's okay, because we killed the dog instead.
Yes.
Anyway, so yes, what did you think? Feel free to let us know on our Twitter. What's our Twitter, Dan?
It is jazz_lasagna.
That's it.
It's jazz_lasagna. I'll put up a poll on Monday like normal, so please have a vote, because this is a very controversial decision for the win. And if you disagree with our top 4, let us know in the comments, or an email. Fire us an email and
yep.
Let us know who you think.
Send us an email, jazzlasagna@gmail.com. And yes, that's it for another episode of Fightography.
See ya!